Hello, welcome back to Hedgie English. And you're here, I hope, for some more Popeye. Popeye the Sailor Man. He's being elected president. Him and Bluto are tied. They have the same number of votes, and the winning vote belongs to one Miss Olive Oil. And she says she can't vote until her chores are done. And Popeye and Bluto are thus doing her chores. So far, we've seen them chop wood, or Popeye punched wood. They've plowed a field. Popeye used a fence, a white picket fence, to plow a field. And now we are getting into new territory where there's a big amount of hay, and they have to put the hay away. And Popeye started to crank the car, to the vehicle. I'm not sure if there's a better term for this vehicle. A tractor, maybe. If you have an idea, write it in the comments. And he started to drive the tractor away, or crank the tractor. Sorry, he used the crank to crank the tractor, and Bluto hopped on and just drove over Popeye, ran Popeye over in the tractor. And we'll rewind so we can see what happened, and then we'll continue. He ran over Popeye, but Bluto made a mistake. He left the hay behind. So Popeye is under the hay, but he has the hay, and he lifts up the hay from underneath. He is underneath. He lifts up the hay, and he looks back. We cut to Bluto, who's just driving off in the tractor all by himself with no hay behind him. And he doesn't notice. He doesn't have the hay. And we see Popeye running in the distance past Bluto, pulling the cart of hay, or wagon of hay. Bluto is shocked. He does the shocked head movement, which I think people should do more often. Whoa, oh, hold on. So Popeye, he runs up to the barn. He jumps off of a bench. That wooden thing is called a bench. He jumps off the bench and then uses the bench as kind of a a wedge to push down and toss or eject the hay out of the cart, I'm guessing into the barn. So it's like a lever, and he uses the bench as a sort of, probably somebody who knows physics can explain this better, but uses the bench as a sort of wedge or thing which allows him to push down on one end of the cart and force the hay out of the cart. Popeye runs into the barn, opens the roof. He opens the roof of the barn so that the hay can fly into the barn, so the hay can land in the barn. And Popeye, always a true gentleman, closes the roof after. Bluto's shocked. He does the shocked face. He grimaces. Grimaces is like a angry smile. He grimaces. Now we cut back to Olive Oil and Popeye.
The chores are all finished, Ollie. Shall we goes to the polls?
The chores are all finished, darling. Remember darling, like honey or baby. Shall we? Should we? Do you want to? Shall we? Goes. Again, it's Popeye. He should say go, but he puts the extra S. We'll say the Popeye S. He uses the Popeye S. Shall we goes to the polls. The polls, remember, the place where you vote. He opens the car door for Olive Oyl.
Popeye, I'm casting my vote for you.
Olive Oyl says, and Olive Oyl with her high-pitched voice says, Popeye, I'm casting my vote. Casting a vote is another way of saying voting. I'm casting my vote for you. I'm voting for you. But then a ladder falls on Popeye, traps him inside, and then lifts him out of the car, and we see that it's Bluto. So Bluto is also pretty strong. Popeye is strong, so is Bluto. So Bluto lifts Popeye up with the ladder and then starts to rip apart the ladder. Rip the ladder apart. Which loosens or frees Popeye. Popeye turns in the air. He somersaults in the air and starts to fall. Bluto winds up. He winds up. He brings his arm back. It looks like he's going to punch Popeye. And he punches Popeye. He socks Popeye. Popeye flies into the tractor, through the seat, through the engine, and his head comes out the front with a part of the engine or the motor in his mouth, which is turning.
Let's go, Toots. You're voting for me.
Let's go, Toots. Toots, another short word for honey, for baby, for darling. Most of these words sound old. Most people don't say them today. And Toots probably, less polite. So he says, let's go, Toots, let's go, baby. You're voting for me. Sooner or later, Bluto normally stops being nice and tries to force Olive Oyl to come with him or do something. Bluto is the bad guy. Popeye usually convinces Olive Oyl to go with him, and Bluto usually forces Olive Oyl to go with him.
You, I'm not voting for.
You, she says, you, I'm not voting for. I'm not voting for you. But she says you first to emphasize it. And she starts to walk away, and Bluto grabs her.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are, he says, and he puts her back in the car and then drives off. Popeye is still in the tractor. And with his eyes closed and just chilling. Chilling in the tractor. Everyone's favorite thing to do. He opens his eyes. He notices. Let's see if he does the head shake thing. Yep. Head movement to show he's surprised. But what does he see? The camera pans over and he sees his oldest friend, Spinach. He spits out the propeller, which somehow turns into his pipe. He has his pipe. He reaches his pipe out and uses it as a vacuum to suck the spinach into the pipe. He chews the spinach. We hear the Popeye theme song in the background, because we know this is a classic Popeye move. So we hear the Popeye theme song. He swallows the spinach. We see the spinach travel through his body. His spinach travels through his body. It makes his backside very, very, very large. A less rude word would be ass. It makes his ass. Or sorry, a more rude word, a ruder word. A less polite word would be ass. It makes it very large. The spinach comes back. The spinach frees him from the tractor. And then suddenly he stands up and he uses the treads, the parts of the tractor, the treads as skates, That now he can skate on the treads of the tractor. So it's like he is ice skating, like on an ice rink. We hear the theme song again in the background. Now we fade out, and we fade into the polling place.
I'll never, 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 never ever vote for you.
So Bluto is dragging Olive Oil into the polls, and she's screaming, "I'll never, ever, ever, ever vote for you." She refuses, but he has her by the hand, and he's dragging her to the polling place. And we come to the curtains where you go inside to vote.
Get in there, babe, and vote for...
He opens the curtain and looks at her. He turns to her and looks at her and says, "Get in there, babe. Babe, darling, honey, toots." Just a lot of terms for girl, woman. Be careful. Some, again, many of them are old. Some women would not be happy to be called this, especially at that time. He turns back and he sees Popeye, and he's shocked. He says, "Popeye." Popeye says, "Yeah," and punches him on the face. He socks him in the face. He punches him right in the kisser, to use old terms. Bluto goes flying. Popeye theme song again. And then Bluto goes flying into his banner. A big piece of fabric which says "Vote for Bluto," his banner. And Bluto lands in his banner and gets twisted up in the banner. And he's trapped. He's trapped in the banner, and he's moving his limbs, his arms and legs, and he can't get out. Fade out, fade back into what looks like a parade. It is a parade. It is an election parade. It looks like Popeye won the election, and he is in a parade. After a politician wins, they sit in a parade that goes down the streets, and they wave, they thank people. The crowds, the people, they line the street in front of on one side of the road, and on the other side of the road they're cheering. The crowds are cheering, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." And Popeye and Olive Oil are waving to the crowds. So they're waving, and then also they're doing kind of like an old thing for when you win, kind of like thank you, thank you. I don't think people do this much anymore. It's kind of interesting. I wonder when it stopped. And so Popeye and Olive Oil, they turn to look at each other. They continue to do this celebratory gesture, this movement, celebratory gesture, but their arms become entangled, intertwined. Their arms, Popeye's arms go through, in between Olive Oil's arms. And it turns into a hug. Yes, that's right. Dear viewers, their celebration becomes a hug. And if we look at their faces, Olive Oil looks pretty happy about it. Or maybe she just doesn't know. Popeye, he looks a little bit upset, actually. But they just didn't notice. They hadn't noticed. Now they notice. They turn to face each other. And because this is an older time, they both become shy. They both become aware how close they are. And they become shy and turn away and close their eyes. And Popeye says, like, "Oh gosh," like an exclamation. He says, it's kind of like a nicer way of saying, "Oh God." but in a pleasant way. And they hug closer, but turn away. And we fade to black. So there we are. That is Popeye for President. If you liked it, I'm really glad to hear that. We're going to do more of these. You should go, if you like the cartoon, you can watch it again. Or you can just watch me talking about it. You can watch me talking about cartoons for a while. And remember, it may feel like it's slow, but really the best thing for you to learn a language, for your brain to learn the language, is just for it to hear it and see and understand at least a little bit what it's hearing, to see something, to make a connection between the sounds and a thing. And it takes time, but it's the best way to really feel, to learn the language, to reach that goal. So just enjoy, try to understand. If you liked it, please, it would be great if you could support the project. You could like, share, subscribe, anything you want to do. Let's change it up. Share, subscribe, like, subscribe, like, share. Don't like twice, because then I guess it unlikes. And maybe join the Patreon. I want to discuss, you can suggest things you would like to see, and maybe we can vote on what we look at next, or other things. So anyway, thank you for watching Hedgie English, and hope to see you again soon.